But I do want to ask you, I mean, we've been talking about the last 12 months, and I think you just have a completely unique perspective because you've been in the industry for so long, but also your family has been in the industry for so long. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen the same thing about as I have. You've seen departures from the industry fairly regularly over the last 12 months. And I wanted to get your take. And I think I know the answer to this, but I mean, have you ever considered, maybe this isn't the industry for me going forward, whether it was in the last 12 months or, I mean, even before that, because, we all know this isn't the first crisis the travel industry has faced.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Yes, I do think this is the right industry for me.
Yeah.
I I believe travel and tourism, it gives you experiences that you'd never have before. And it's I love to fly. I miss taking off still at the end of a runway. And when the plane breaks through the clouds and you just sort of soar, to me, that's magical. But I loved looking at planes when I was a kid at the end of a runway, which I used to do with my grandparents out in northeastern Iowa. I love having global friends that you can pick up where you left off. And I've had this time to connect with people that go back 30 plus years and gone through many different careers, but we still have that commonality of friendship and integrity, and we can pick up where we left off. I definitely have the desire to explore. I miss traveling. And I recently pulled together the number of states I've been to and the number of countries I've been to. And I have a hit list of where I want to go when things reopen.
Yeah.
But I think most importantly, I like to serve. And what I've realized is travel and tourism and hospitality, it's all about service to someone. And people need advisors because they need to aggregate information. People want to serve. I think a lot of people who were questioning why they had the travel bug, if you didn't have that desire to serve, you couldn't make it through this year. I thought your question was going to go in a different direction to say, is this the right industry? Would I consider government affairs and advocacy and politics? Probably not politics right now, just because it doesn't move fast enough for me. I mean, we've made great influence in the last year since our last legislative day. But the sheer fact that, unfortunately, right now, we're not even sure what Ledge Day this year is going to look like because it's hybrid, partly because of COVID, but partly because of the January 6th incidents. And I, as an American, as someone part of this democratic institution, have a real hard time when someone says, I can't go to Capitol Hill and speak to my representative. I mean, I'm really pissed, and I hate to say it the way, I'm blown away. So we're trying to reshape that. How can we have an impact when we can't actually go up and do that anymore? It was actually a really good exercise for me to do. What I did was I took the global entry Customs Border Patrol list, and I went down and I literally sort of like a game of memory, walked through which country I'd been to, and I marked one color for I'd been to, one color I haven't been to, and then I started ranking them. I know, maybe very type A individual, but it was an interesting sort of experiment for me to think about the future, to know again that this is just a moment in time. I think we have to continue to convey that message.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that you were upset with the January 6th thing, and I just want to segue because this is something I've heard from people over the last year and people outside of travel and hospitality too. I mean, it does seem like it was nobody's fault, but we were almost robbed of a year of those experiences because of this virus. And it just that I think that's what's sort of driving whatever pent up demand people are talking about now, is that, people do have those feelings that they were robbed almost of a year of living, spending time with their grandparents or their grandchildren. I know my mother wanted to spend time with her grandkids, taking vacations over the last year. And I think a lot of people are feeling that same way.
Very much so. I mean, people that I talk to, milestone birthdays, graduations,
honeymoons,
seeing grandkids, 3 generations together. And I think people are starting to plan some of that for the end of this year. I think they're very hesitant not to go say, it's definitely the summer, because they don't want to have their hopes disappointed again. A lot for 2022, a lot for 2023. And I think people are never going to look at those in the same way to say, oh, it's okay to miss that because you always thought you could do it. And when we talk about having something taken away from you, I think that's going to stay with anyone who lived through this global pandemic. You're not going to take for granted getting on a plane. You're not going to take for granted a birthday. You're not going to take for granted a dinner out together.
This is Dan McCarthy, and you're listening to the Check-In Podcast.